Daiki, as second son, you are entitled to nothing. I grant you 1 hectare of the eastern wasteland. Be grateful I grant you anything.
The greenhouse shelf gave way. I died. And now I am here. A geneticist in a medieval body.
Daiki's new family watched him like a parasite. His father's decree was final, his brother's smirk a promise of future cruelty.
Enjoy your little farm, brother. Maybe you can grow enough weeds to feed a goat.
600 kilograms per hectare. The local yield, with Mendelian selection, I can triple that within 4 seasons.
He walked alone to the eastern boundary. Worthless scrublands stretched to the horizon under a pale morning sky. Daiki knelt and let the dry soil run through his fingers. Poor drainage, low organic matter, but it held secrets.
Rust resistance, drought tolerance, kernel size. Isolate the traits, cross the land races, and record every generation.
The neighboring farmers called him the Mad Noble, but inside his notebook, a revolution rooted.
Let them laugh. In 4 years, every kingdom on this continent will be knocking on my door.
For weeks, he scoured the boundaries where wild wheat clung to life, collecting seeds the locals dismissed as worthless.
Slight purple tint on the stem. That's the rust-resistant allele. And those plump kernels, despite the drought tolerance.
He carved stakes and labeled 5 plots, one for each trait he would isolate. In the candlelit shack, his notebook filled with Punnett squares and survival rates.
Cross plot A with plot C. If the recessive traits hold, the F2 generation will show the pattern.
Still playing in the dirt, Daiki? Father was right to throw you out. You are an embarrassment to our blood.
His horse is better fed than his mind. Let him bray.
Daiki turned his back and tied a string to a stake, marking the successful cross-pollination. That night, he circled 2 entries. Line 12 times, line 7, potential parent pair.
The first generation will be merely tolerant. But in 3 years, they'll call this wasteland the breadbasket of an empire.
2 harvests passed. The village still mocked his small, ugly grains, but Daiki's eyes never left the data.
Rust took 30% of plot B again. But plot D's resistance held. That's the donor parent I need.
My horse eats better wheat than you grow, Daiki. Still chasing ghosts in the dirt?
Ghosts don't leave records, Marcus. The Punnett square doesn't lie. The recessive ratio is finally emerging.
By the 3rd spring, he had purged the weak lines. 4 traits fixed: rust resistance, sturdy stems, drought tolerance, plump kernels. But the 5th trait, early ripening, avoided him. The crucial edge to beat the autumn storms.
Wait, that volunteer in the corner. It headed 2 weeks before the others. Could it be a natural outcross?
He isolated the rogue plant immediately, bagging its head to capture every grain. That autumn, his hybrid progeny stood golden while the neighbor's fields still struggled green.
4 traits stable, early ripening added. Next season, we plant the scaled trial. And then, they'll see.
Harvest 4 filled carts that groaned under the weight. The scales registered 2,284 kilograms per hectare.
4 times the local standard. The data is unassailable.
A traveling spice merchant halted his caravan. Daiki's golden stalks could not be ignored. By week's end, trade routes buzzed with the impossible rumor. A farmer had broken the yield barrier.
Proof attracts danger. I must not sell the seed. I must license it, or lose control forever.
Within the month, a ducal envoy arrived at his gate, a sealed letter from Duke Vermin in hand.
This is the first test. They want a purchase. I will offer a lease.
Seated in his shack, the envoy laid gold coins on the table. Daiki pushed them back. Instead, he slid a parchment forward. It outlined terms no lord had ever heard: a right to plant, never to own.
And if they break the contract, the seed sterility ensures they harvest nothing again without my hand.
Duke Vermin himself stepped from the carriage, his velvet doublet stark against the dusty farmyard.
I have heard the rumors. I will buy your entire seed stock. Name your price in gold.
He aims to own the source. If I sell once, I lose all leverage. Redirect. I do not sell seeds, Your Grace. I grant an exclusive right to plant them, renewed each year under contract.
A farmer dictating terms to a duke. Preposterous. I could simply have my men seize it.
Daiki held up a dissected wheat spike, the tiny florets pale and shriveled under a lens.
This grain produces a bountiful harvest, but its offspring are sterile. You will need my seed every season.
The Duke's advisors huddled. They saw the trap and the monopoly it guaranteed.
If I refuse, another lord will sign and outpace me. Hand me the quill. I'll grant your license.
The parchment was sealed with crimson wax. The first licensing contract became law, and Daiki's invisible empire took root. Within 2 years, caravans from 3 duchies queued at his gate. His stone manor rose where scrubland once choked the sun.
Licensing fees have made me wealthier than any lord in this kingdom. But gold invites envy.
His father sent a letter, ink blotched with hesitation. Daiki read it and let it fall into the hearth.
Open this gate. I am your brother. You ingrate. Father demands to see you.
The steward blocked the gate. Above, Daiki's silhouette watched without a word.
You cast me out for 1 hectare of dust. Now you crawl back for grain.
By season's end, tax collectors arrived, their ledgers gaping at the sums. Reports flew to the capital. A farmer now held more coin than the royal treasury.
The crown will not ignore this. I must prepare for a different kind of harvest.
Outside the manor, Marcus's curses faded to silence. But in the capital, the wheels of envy had begun to turn. Inside the throne room, sunlight slanted through stained glass, but no warmth touched the king's face.
This tax ledger, the farmer Daiki alone paid more gold than my treasury holds.
The advisor's whisper curled through the hall like smoke. A commoner controls the bread of the realm, Your Majesty. On the council table, a map unfurled. Trade routes from every duchy fed into Daiki's fields. A single snip could starve the kingdom.
He owns no army, but his granaries are mightier than swords. If I do not act, my crown becomes a hollow ornament.
The royal scribe's quill scratched a draft, all seed stock and breeding records to be surrendered to the crown.
Seize the fields, the seeds, and every notebook. Let him argue with an army at his gate.
The decree was sealed with the royal dragon crest, the wax still warm when it left the palace. But in the eastern manor, Daiki received his own whisper from a loyal courier. The game had changed.
At last, I have been waiting for their move. Now I will show them what a seed contract can do.
A royal herald thrust the decree into Daiki's hands. Behind him, workers froze mid-thresh, breath held. He broke the dragon seal and read the command: all seed, all notebooks, all rights to the crown. Without a word, Daiki walked to the hearth and let the parchment catch the flames. One worker gasped, "The king will hang us." Others stumbled backward, but Daiki only wiped his hands.
He cannot take what he does not understand. Go home. Tomorrow, you will still have work. The king believes this is theft. He has walked into a trap woven with ink and pollen.
That night, Daiki drafted no reply. Instead, he reviewed the oldest clause in every ducal contract. Article 7, should any sovereign seize the licensor's property, all signatories shall cease trade immediately.
I did not build an empire of seed. I built an empire of ink. Let his soldiers come.
The king's messengers rode back with no answer. By dawn, the royal army began its march toward the farm. The rising sun glinted off a column of steel. Captain Cade led 40 riders down the farm road, the royal banner snapping above them.
By order of the king, surrender this land and all its seeds, or we take it by force.
Right on schedule.
Daiki stepped through the gate, a thick contract held open in both hands. His face held no fear.
Article 7 of every licensing contract. If the crown seizes my property, all signatory duchies will impose an immediate trade embargo.
The soldiers exchanged glances. Many had relatives who depended on grain imports from those duchies.
Paper tricks. You think merchants will bleed for one farmer?
He doesn't believe it yet, but he will.
Captain Cade raised a clenched fist, the signal to charge, but his eyes stayed on Daiki's, unblinking, unbroken. The fist stayed frozen. The soldiers waited. In that silence, the kingdom's fate balanced on a few lines of ink. The thunder of a single horse shattered the silence. A rider in vermin colors galloped through the soldiers' line. The envoy raised a sealed document, the duke's crest gleaming in the morning light. He read in a voice that carried to every ear. The Duchy of Vermin recognizes Article 7. Any seizure will trigger a full trade embargo, effective immediately.
You coordinated this. You knew they would come.
I prepared for a bad harvest. The king prepared for a theft. Only one of us understood the soil.
Captain Cade's jaw tightened. He looked at the envoy, then at the soldiers whose relatives would starve. Slowly, he lowered his fist. The signal to charge would not come.
This isn't over, farmer. The king will have your head for this.
He still thinks this is about me. It is about bread.
The soldiers turned and rode east. Behind them, the first warning letters were already flying to every signatory duchy. In the capital, King Valdis received the report. Soldiers withdrawn, envoy's declaration, ducal seal, his goblet shattered against the throne room wall.
Send riders to every duchy. Threaten their trade routes. Remind them who wears the crown.
But the duchy's replies returned swift and cold. Duke Vermin's seal was the first, and the message was identical. We stand with Daiki. Cease your aggression or face the full weight of our economies. Signed by 3 duchies, Daiki's courier arrived at the capital with a single parchment. He did not beg. He activated Article 7. Within a week, trade routes snapped. The map of the kingdom turned from a web of green lines to a cage of broken links. The royal granaries, fed by taxed wheat, dwindled. Hoarders swept the markets bare. Bread became a rumor.
He is only a farmer. I am the king. How can grain be sharper than swords?
Every contract is a route. I have spread them wide. Now, I pull, and the kingdom cracks.
The first riots erupted in the capital's streets, not for power, but for wheat. The king's seat grew hot. Bread riots turned into daily storms. The city guard, starved themselves, could barely hold the streets. Nobles hoarded grain behind locked gates. The poor fought over a single stale loaf in the gutters.
Every report is a wound. My treasury is full of gold I cannot eat. Why does he not break?
Even Captain Cade's men, unpaid and unfed, began to question their orders. The kingdom's spine was bending. Daiki read the reports alone in his quiet manner. He did not celebrate. He wrote a single line in his notebook.
I did not want this, but a farmer who yields his land to thieves plants nothing but ruin.
In the darkest hour of the night, the king summoned a hooded rider. No banners, no seal, only a plea.
Go to Daiki. Tell him. I will hear his terms. My crown cannot be seen begging.
The rider vanished into the night, carrying no document. Only the king's whispered surrender. Before dawn, the horse halted at Daiki's gate. The rider carried no weapon, only a desperate hope. Daiki listened to the rider's whispered message. He gave no reply, only a nod, and closed the gate.
The king thinks I will trade lives for land. He still underestimates what a farmer values.
Before noon, Master Giesel arrived, his weathered face worn with the hunger of his people.
I have grain. I will not lift the embargo, but I will feed the innocent.
After everything they said, you would still help? Why?
Because wheat does not choose who is worthy. It simply grows.
That night, carts rolled in darkness from the granary. Guild runners left bread on 1,000 doorsteps. No one spoke the source. Whispers called it the ghost grain, but the starving did not ask questions.
Let them curse the crown. not starve for it. When this ends, I will face the judgment.
The king's spies reported no negotiation. The embargo held, yet the people did not break. Valdus's patience snapped. King Valdus summoned his remaining commanders. His voice cracked with fury. "Burn the fields, if you must. I will not be defied by grain." Captain Cade led his men toward the farm once more. But this time, the road was lined with silent, hollow-eyed villagers. At the farm gate, the first soldier threw down his sword. Then another. The clatter of steel was a cascade.
I swore an oath to protect the realm. You have fed it while the crown starved it. I will not raise my blade against you.
Then stand with those who grow bread, not those who burn it. There will be a place for you here.
The king received the news in stunned silence. His army had melted away. The throne room felt cavernous.
I am king of dust and empty granaries. He has taken everything without lifting a sword.
A council advisor, voice trembling, suggested the only path left. "Send a herald, your majesty, offer terms." A royal herald departed the capital before sunset, carrying a blank scroll. The king's authority had finally broken.
Now the real negotiation begins. The seed must be protected forever, not just today.
The herald halted at Daiki's gate, breathless. Behind him, the empty road stretched back to a desperate capital. Daiki unrolled the blank scroll on his desk. He dipped his quill and began to write, his strokes slow and deliberate.
Perpetual license. Zero royal interference. Every condition I gave the duchies, the crown must now accept permanently.
He paused, then added a final line. "This instrument shall be signed publicly, witnessed by the signatory duchies." The herald carried the scroll back to the capital. King Valdus read it in the empty throne room, his hands shaking.
He demands I kneel before the continent, and I have no army left to refuse.
The advisors pleaded reason. The treasury was empty, the people hungry. Only a signature could stop the collapse.
Send him my seal. Tell him the signing will be in the grand square. Let all duchies witness what I have lost.
Daiki received the seal with a calm nod. The herald confirmed the public ceremony for the next noon.
The ink is dry. Now, I will make sure no crown ever touches wheat again.
In a dim chamber, beneath the silent scribe's eye, King Valdus took up the quill. His hand quivered as he inscribed his name on the perpetual license, surrendering all claim to Daiki's seeds. The royal seal was pressed into crimson wax, and with it, the embargo was dead. An advisor leaned close. "A hereditary title, Your Majesty. Make him a lord." A council voice whispered poison.
A lord bound by law and debt. Yes, he will learn that a crown still has teeth. Prepare the patent of nobility. Let him wear a coronet, but never forget who wears the real crown.
The ink of the signature was still wet when another draft appeared on the desk, a decree of hereditary peerage. The king misread his enemy. Daiki did not hunger for titles. He hungered for dirt under his nails. In his estate, Daiki read the notice of the signed license. The embargo was over, but his wariness remained.
He will try something at the ceremony. People always do. I will be ready.
The grand square overflowed with commoners and dukes alike, all gathered to witness the ink that ended a war.
For his service to the realm, I grant Daiki hereditary nobility. Let him wear the crown of a lord.
King Valdus lifted the coronet and set it upon Daiki's brow, his fingers trembling with false grace.
A velvet leash. He wants me bound to his court, grateful and toothless.
Daiki reached up, slowly lifted the crown from his own head, and held it before the silent crowd.
Wheat does not grow from crowns. It grows from hands in the soil. This belongs to those who feed the world.
He turned to Master Gizel and placed the peerage crown on the old farmer's weathered head.
The Farmers' Guild will hold this title. Every farmer in this kingdom now stands equal to any lord.
A roar erupted from the crowd, not anger, but fierce, tearful joy. Hats flew into the air. King Valdus stood alone on the platform, his face a mask of ash. The crown he meant as a cage had become a key. A hush fell as Daiki raised his hand. The jubilation dimmed to a single, expectant silence.
Wheat does not need a king. It needs water, soil, and hands that understand it. Those hands are yours.
He let the silence speak, then stepped back from the platform's edge. The ceremonial cloak slipped from his shoulders. He folded it with the same care he gave his seedlings and laid it at the king's feet without a glance. Then he descended the steps, the crowd parting like wheat before a scythe. King Valdis watched, a ghost on his own throne, as the man who should have been his prisoner walked free.
I did not come here for a crown. I came for the dirt, and now I can return.
The cathedral bells tolled not for a king, but for a harvest, as Daiki vanished into the golden fields. Behind him, the guild's new banner rose over the square, a sheaf of wheat emblazoned on a field of green. He did not look back. There was nothing behind him worth more than the soil ahead. The wheat parted before his steps. His manner stood unchanged, as if the world beyond had only been a storm. Master Gizel waited, the peerage scroll clutched in calloused fingers. He bowed, though a crown rested on his brow.
The guild begs you to lead us. You gave us a crown, but we need your hands in the soil.
They still think I want to command the fields. I only want to feel them. I am not a leader, Gizel. I am a man who knows dirt. Let the guild lead itself.
He knelt in the soil beside the path, his hand opened, a single seed resting in his palm. With the same care he gave 100 generations, he pressed it into the earth.
This is the only throne I ever needed.
The sun caught the gold of the fields, and the old farmer knew he had finally come home. The seed would grow, the world would change, and Daiki would remain among his fields, content. Seasons folded into years. The once barren hectare had become a sea of gold that fed a continent. Children who had known hunger now chased each other through stalks taller than their fathers. A stone school rose beside the guild hall, its windows filled with voices reciting Punnet's laws. The Farmers' Guild banner flew higher than the royal standard, its sheaf bold against the sky. On market days, the old square where the king had knelt became a fair of seed swaps and shared bread. Farmers from distant duchies came to learn, not from lords, but from the hands that tilled the revolution. Daiki's name was spoken less often, not forgotten, but absorbed into the soil itself. When a traveler asked who owned the fields, a child pointed not to a manor, but to the banner. The answer was always the same: we do. And the wheat kept growing, loyal only to the earth, indifferent to crowns. In a tavern thick with pipe smoke, a young bard climbed onto a wooden crate, lute in hand. He sang of a man in a green vest who turned a wasteland into an empire of wheat. The crowd knew the tale. They had heard it from their fathers and their fathers before. In a shadowed corner, an old man with a sun-worn face sat alone, his ale untouched. The bard's voice swelled. He placed a crown on a farmer's head and walked away into the gold. Tear traced the wrinkles on the old man's cheek and fell into his cup. He asked for no throne, only dirt. The bard strummed, and the tavern walls seemed to lean in. The patrons roared, slamming mugs on the tables, a toast to the farmer who beat a king. The old man smiled, a small, private thing, and raised his ale at last. The song faded into the rafters, but the legend of Daiki of the green vest did not. In his sunlit study, an older Daiki paused before a framed parchment hanging on the stone wall. It was the original Punnett Square, his first cross, his first hope. Ink faded, but the logic still sharp. Daiki traced a gloved finger over the glass. The memory of dust and mockery felt distant now. He straightened, a new leather notebook tucked under his arm, its pages blank and waiting. The manor door opened to a sea of gold. The wheat bowed as he passed, brushing his sleeves.
Always more traits to isolate, more crosses to make. The soil never runs out of questions.
He walked until the manor was a silhouette, until the world was only wheat and sky. He found a quiet row, knelt in the warm earth, and opened the notebook to its first page. The sun sank low, gilding the fields one last time. He wrote a single line, then closed the cover, and Daiki of the green vest remained among his fields, where the quiet harvest never ends.